All right, I'll start.
Yeah.
All right, top four real estate markets to invest in 2020. Next slide, please. So the metrics we're basing our findings on are, the fastest growing cities and metropolitan areas, based on percentage, according to census data. And then they're mostly projections as well. Next slide, please. So the first one on the list is Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington area. It's probably one of Texas's most booming metropolitan areas, and Texas' main exports include crude oil and refined oil, and exporting most of its goods to Mexico. The low cost of living attracts people from all over the U.S. and the world. The reason why I included this, look at this graphic over here that breaks down Texas exports is kind of a reflection of Texas economy and like what most of the jobs are, and most of the jobs are probably going to be oil based. Next job, please. So Texas population as a state is projected to increase exponentially, and that's just going to keep on going, until it just reaches like a tipping point, more like California. Right now, California is kind of experiencing the opposite, where younger people are trying to move out to escape the cost of living, moving to states like Texas. And on the graphics on the bottom, you can see at the state level, back in 2010, Texas's population was 25 million, but by 2050, it's set to almost double. And the same thing for the Dallas-Fort Worth Arlington area. Started off really low in 2015, but by 2050, it's set to almost double. Next slide, please.
Orlando, Florida is number one on Forbes' best place to buy a house. Right now, the population growth is 252% faster than the national average. Last year, it gained 60,000 new residents. The MSA population is 2.13 million, and it is a top 5 fastest growing metro area in the country. So Orlando, Florida created over 40,000 new jobs last year. It's an extremely popular tourist destination because Disney World's there. So is Universal Studios and SeaWorld. They get around 50 to 60 million visitors every single year. So this makes Airbnb extremely popular in Orlando, Florida. So if you do buy a property and you can't find any long-term renters, you can do Airbnb and still make a pretty good profit. And the unemployment rate is 2.9%. Next slide. So 65% of the population rents. So this makes it very easy to find renters in Orlando, Florida. The average home sells for $271,000, making it a very easy market to get into. And then rent prices over the past 3 years have increased by 11.27%, which is higher than the national average. And the average rent was higher than the national average at $1,303. And the vacancy rate is a little higher than the national average. It's 11.65%. That can easily be combated with using Airbnb or just renting out your property for a week to people that are coming to visit Orlando, Florida. And then it has a lot of multi-family housing. Next slide.
The next city we're going to cover is Raleigh City in North Carolina. It was labeled a magnet city because the culture, the opportunities, and the general way of life continues to attract people every year. The population is, sorry about that. The current population is around 450,000, and 51% of that population are renting. which means that it's a little bit more than half. The median property price is $477,440. The median rent is $1,300 and currently rising. The downtown area and the northeast area are currently around $1,500. The unemployment rate is 6.2%, which is lower than the national average. And there's been a 3% recent job growth. Recent job, and there's been a 3% recent job growth over the past year, and it's been forecasted to increase by 44% in the next 10 years. The top employers are in health, education, and in the service industry. Raleigh it's a university city. They have at least three universities on top of regular schools that attract multiple students every year. And other big employers are giants like Walmart, Target, and the state. The average property tax rate in Raleigh is 0.96%, which is lower than the national average. The current vacancy rate is 2.2%. The occupancy rate right now is at 97%, which is quite high compared to the other parts of the state. The price to rent ratio, which is basically an indication of whether or not a person should rent or own their own house. The lower it is, the better. And right now for Raleigh, it's at 27. The traditional cash on cash return for properties is 2.2%. And for the next year of 2021, it has been for the appreciation on property values has been predicted to grow by 7%. And one of the top neighborhoods to invest in right now is in the Northeast. Like I previously mentioned, the current rent average is around 1,500 there.
The city of Nashville is also a very, very good real estate market, very promising. Last year alone, the market reached a historic high and is predicted to actually be the fourth hottest housing market in 2020. Nashville also currently has 692 residents, and in the greater Nashville, which contains 10 counties, has a population of 1.9 million. The job market in Nashville is very, very promising as well, where employment went up by 2.2% last year and is predicted to go up by 0.9% this year, in spite of the COVID pandemic. Please go next.
I am sorry about that.
The median listing price of housing in Nashville is $329,000, while the median selling price is $288,500. Over the last year, the home values have increased by 4.1% each year, which is pretty good, meaning that you can get a good return on your investments. The average day on the market is 70, and compared to the national negative equity, Nashville has a 5.4% negative equity, meaning that it's doing significantly better than the average in the state. I mean, in the U.S. And nearly 48% of households in Nashville are rent occupied, meaning that half of the population live in rented houses, which can pose a lot of opportunities for new investment into the area. The median rent is 1,675, which is a bit higher than other places, but still, since of the high density of renters in the place, you can still be able to find enough people to be able to make a profit in your in your property. And finally, Forbes ranks Nashville as the 14th best place for job growth. And job growth means better economy. A better economy means people have more. If people have more, they can invest, and it all becomes a feedback loop of which can positively impact your investment in the area.
Okay, so a brief summary of what we just went through. The first city we talked about is Dallas Fort Worth, Arlington in Texas, and it's a very good place to invest in because of its oil export and overall low cost of living. The second city is Orlando, Florida, which has a fast growing population and a very high percentage of renters, and is also a very popular tourist attraction, which can be a plus in to combat the vacancy rate if you have a high one. Um, Raleigh City in North Carolina, it has a very low vacancy rate and rising rent prices and good property values. And finally, Nashville, Tennessee, which has great opportunities in the employment industry and rising property values. Um, thank you. That is it for us.